Hey y'all, you're listening to Word on the Street, an OML and RRC podcast. Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Word on the Street. Actually, our last episode of Word on the Street this quarter, and the last time that we'll all be a part of it. I am Anissa. I am your host. I use she, her, hers, or they, them, theirs as my pronouns, and I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to my fellow coworkers and introduce themselves for this podcast. Anyone that wants to go?
And then I'll go next then. My name is Shrey. I use he, him, his pronouns.
Hi, my name is Bella, and I use she, her pronouns.
Hi, my name is Grace. My pronouns are she, her.
Hi, I'm Sean. I use he, him pronouns.
And hi, I'm Kiara. I use she, they pronouns.
All right. Thank you all for meeting with me here. So something that we want to do with this podcast is there's a lot of things that we want to touch on. Some of the things that we were really excited about and happened this year, events that we're really proud of. Some things that happened on campus that we were not as proud of and took some issue with. As well as some of the transitions that we went through this year as an office and how we will all be transitioning outward towards other SIEs taking our role. So this is just our last little bit to round out the year, talk about what happened, and thank you all for participating and listening to us, and for us to say our goodbyes. All right, does anyone want to start with anything that is weighing on them or anything like that?
Shout out to Anissa for creating the podcast for 2 years.
Thank you.
It's fantastic work, and we're so grateful for you.
I am gonna cry during this.
I cried last night. So.
I am.
And this made me cry last night when I asked, after the difficult dialogue, I like to ask, what's one thing you can do to take care of yourself this week? Because it's a heavy conversation. And Anissa went on about healing her inner child, and I literally started crying.
Yeah.
It was so embarrassing.
That's not embarrassing. Don't say that.
No, it was very, very sweet. So I guess let's start with that. One of the things that we do in the office are having difficult dialogues, and they get to be the topics that we get to discuss. So the one that me and Grace and Trey were a part of last night was talking about decolonizing mental health and what that looks like and how it has progressed over the years in the US and in other countries as well. And when we were ending, it's something that we all very much care about and something that is really big to us. Specifically for me, I'm currently training to be a therapist, and one that is going to decolonize the way that I practice and the way that I approach mental health in general. So it was something really, really important. And when we ended, we decided to ask people, because it was a lot of heavy information that is hard to hear and hard to deal with, but asking people to not only take the information, but also take care of themselves afterwards. And so when Grace asked, I had said that I had been listening to a lot of music from when I was 15, and really resonating. I am 25 years old, and that is probably the last time that I'll say that, and announcing my age to all of you, because I do that so often. But I spent the last decade really going from a place of self-hatred, self-harm in doing this, and then finally realizing that me at 25 is the person that I would have felt the safest with, and the person that I deeply needed. So I'm taking care of my inner child, but also living my truth now and feeling more comfortable and more authentic in who I am, and finally experiencing life the way that I want. But yeah, so thank you, Grace, and everybody in this office for allowing me to finally have that space.
Yeah. Can I ask you a question about that? So, given what you just shared, I'm wondering how, if at all, the SIE position has contributed to your growth and development over the past decade, and specifically over the past 2 years that you've held the position. How has that contributed to your understanding of yourself and self-love?
Oh yeah, absolutely. My role here was the first time in my life that I was actually I want to put myself into the work that I do. I want to approach life holistically. I want to put myself forward because I have a story that matters. I spent so much of my life thinking that my story didn't matter, that I wasn't Mexican enough because I'm mixed, or I wasn't white enough because I'm mixed, that I wasn't queer enough because I'm pansexual. And now within the sudden realization within the last year that I wasn't cis or trans enough to really see myself as I don't really have a label for that right now. I've just been introducing myself as queer. But if it wasn't for my role in this office and putting so much of myself into the work that I do, like with the podcast, I've shared so much of my life with y'all. Like y'all, you all know just the amount of stories that I have told about my life, and that is shocking to everybody that this has all happened to one person. But it's something that I never got to do, and so as my role as an SIE, I wanted to use that position to speak to those who feel that they can't voice their own opinions and also live my own authenticity. I do that through the podcast. I've done that through Queer Craft Corner, which has deeply meant a lot to me. And this year with Thrift Tea, the just bringing in community and making sure that the voices that aren't heard from or seen on this campus are finally heard and seen. And so, yeah, I hope I answered the question.
Yes, it did beautifully. Thank you.
Well, I mean, Anissa just kind of explained a bunch of the programs that they've done throughout this year, but I don't know, should we go around and discuss some of our favorite programs from either this year, your time as an SIE, and why they've meant so much to you?
So I think I would say all of the programs. Honestly, my favorite was like when me and Kira did Gates in the Garden spring quarter. Like that was like a lot of fun. Like honestly, just getting like a little meal and getting to like get paid for that. But honestly, the biggest thing was like getting all the queer orgs together. Like that was just like it was a lot of fun getting put together, and it was so nice getting all the queer orgs together because like I feel like RC does its own thing as being like the main queer center on campus. Then you have queer and qualified doing like queer professional development, QPACA, queer people of color association doing their own thing, and then we have like SCAP Q&A doing its own thing. But like we don't often like sometimes we'll collab with like one club or one organization, but like having all of them come together for like one event and all that, it was nice to see that happen. So like that's what I really liked about it. And hopefully we can have like more stuff like that where we can get all of our orgs together to do stuff.
I love that.
Mhm.
Yeah. Gaze in the Garden, shout out Nicole
Yes.
for starting
Nicole was
this.
the one who started it, yeah.
It's just the best. I always love going. Okay. I think I can't not say Una Noche. That was
Oh my
just
God.
the like that was the best thing
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
Shout out to Sean. Sean over there. That was easily like one of the most fun nights I've had at Santa Clara, period. And it was like the best introduction to my role as an SIE. That was the first like event I held. And to go, I remember Mahek actually told me, she was like, wow, your first event is like a big event. And I was like, yeah, like what else do we do as SIEs? She's like, make like a Canva flyer. Like she's like, make a presentation. I was like, no, like let's, oh my gosh, it was the best thing ever. But otherwise I loved any time that I could mix my passion with public health with my SIE role. Grace and I did, and Shrey, we did the reproductive justice, typical dialogue. I love the monkeypox.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
No,
Typical
yeah.
dialogue.
And actually, one thing I want to add too about like favorite events too, is you mentioned the monkeypox one. That's another one for me. Is again, it's like getting to cover issues that like you are passionate about and like issues affecting your communities and like your identities. Because for that, like for me, I want to be intentional because like as someone who identifies as a gay man, as someone who had to live through that, like with much of the other queer community, that whole scare and that outbreak, it's like I want to cover this because this like information is very valuable and like I want to make sure that like the community I'm in, the community like my identity's in, and like people I'm around and people I know are like just are safe and don't like get monkeypox, and that of course there isn't that stigma that was there, like this like the same stigmas that were there for HIV/AIDS. Those same ones weren't translated and repeated in monkeypox. So some of those same things were like, oh, it's just the gay man's disease, or like, oh, only gay men will get it, and that, and also just like mismanagement of like vaccines and all that. It's like I want to cover this because like what is going on? Why are we repeating history again, like 4 decades later?
Yeah.
Mhm.
My favorite program after Una Noche is was definitely the Jazz History is Black History typical dialogue.
It's so good.
I thought it was just like the best mix of like of fun and education with just talking about the Black history of jazz, and then bringing on the SCU jazz ensemble to come in and play like before, after, during, and not only experience the music but also just learn like the deeper meanings behind it. So that was definitely, but after when I mentioned that.
Yeah, that's
Pretty much was so good.
I was so sad to have missed Jazz History is Black. Like jazz is maybe my favorite genre of music. I don't know. One of them. And I had an awful migraine, but that was so special. And I remember like looking through the Canva and the presentation and everything. I'm like, oh, jazz is the best. Like old school jazz.
yeah.
That is my favorite. Ella Fitzgerald, Louis Armstrong. There's nothing like it.
Another thing I loved about that program was that we had it in the California Mission Room, and
Yeah.
it wasn't even a presentation. Like we were, Kira, Issa, and I were all just sitting in the half circle with everyone, so we were all like looking at the music, but also looking at each other.
Yeah.
And then we had the doors open, so people who were hearing the jazz being played from the inside the room would just trickle on in, like, oh, what's going on? And they would just scoot over and give a seat to them, and just people were just coming in and out and enjoying the music and just enjoying the conversation as well. So yeah, that was definitely like one of my favorite moments as well.
Well, I have a favorite program too. Honestly, like I have the drive open, looking at this year, and there are so many programs that like I could shout out that I'm so happy that our office was a part of. So I'll just do a couple. I'm sure I'll be reminded of more. But I think I'm trying not to say I think, I'm trying to say I know, because I know. I know that one of my favorite programs was a program that we did last spring quarter, the Know My Name program. And this, for context, I applied for the SIE position as a freshman at Santa Clara and was hired like with the intention the goal that I would start the fall of my sophomore year. But because of COVID, I couldn't start in person until last year. Very complicated. COVID just like really screwed with everything. But while I was studying in DC in the fall of 2021, there were multiple suicides at SCU, and suicide impacted the campus community in like really profound ways. There were also a lot of sexual assaults. The state of everyone's mental, physical health was not good. And I was on the other side of the country, and like trying to navigate that was really difficult. My best friend and roommate in DC knew one of the people who died by suicide, and so like it was just going through the grieving process on the other side of the country was really difficult. And I started to think of ways that we could address that when we came back to Santa Clara. And I had read Chanel Miller's Know My Name the year before, I think, and that is top 2. Like that, and that is a lot coming from me because I read a lot of books, but that is the most impactful thing I've ever read, along with Braiding Sweetgrass, which I won't shut up about. But I thought that book would be a good way to bring the subjects that we wanted to address to the campus community, because for context, Chanel Miller was assaulted in Palo Alto at Stanford University, which is a 15-minute drive from Santa Clara. And she also attended Gun High School in Palo Alto, which is kind of known for its suicides and its high rate of suicide. And she also goes through the legal process and navigates that as a woman of color. And I thought, wow, this book really addresses everything that I want to address on campus. And so I created the Know My Name program, and the Office for Multicultural Learning and the Wellness Center collaborated on a series of presentations. And we were able to, with financial support from the Wellness Center, order 100 books and give them to various departments around campus. And that is honestly one of the highlights of my time at SCU, because of the connections I was able to create through that program. There was one day last spring, I think it was in April, maybe March, and I came into the office and the books they were here, and we'd been passing them out to people. And Brenna was like, "Oh, what are you gonna work on today?" I said, "I'm gonna be a book fairy." he was like, a book fairy? Like, what the hell are you talking about? I'm like, I just trust me. I'll be back in an hour. And he was like, okay, like, I guess I trust you. And I packed a tote bag full of books and I became a book fairy for a day. And I walked to different departments on campus and I was intentional about going to departments that I've never engaged with. I think I went to religious studies and history and like rooms I had never been in. And I asked to speak with like the office managers or the chairs. And I was like, hey, here's this book, here's a flyer, I had bookmarks that I created as stickers. And I was like, if you want to leave a stack of books on the desk and students can take them. And we ended up reaching a lot of people that way that I don't think we would have otherwise reached. And that program and that day, just like being a book fairy, it like I was able to create lasting relationships with folks that I would have otherwise never met, which is really special to me. And then Know My Name became the community read this year, which is another like I'm so happy that our office was able to do that because through it just goes to show that through advocacy, really anything is possible. And now hundreds, if not thousands of people have read Know My Name, which is really, really special. So that's my favorite of last year. My favorite of this year, oh gosh, that's so hard. There are so many. I hate like trying to pick a favorite
I know.
because they're all so special. Honestly,
Yeah.
maybe one that I'm happy about because it required me to reflect on my experience as an SIE and to engage with best practices was the program we did to celebrate MENA Heritage Month with Ciara Moezides, who's an alumni of SCU. She graduated in 2021. We brought her back to speak about her experiences with Paltrek in Palestine as a Harvard Divinity Fellow, and that was really special because I've learned so much from her just throughout the years, and she's someone I wanted to bring back to speak. And she was able to connect to current students in a pretty powerful way. There was one student in the audience who, during the Q&A, like she thanked Ciara and she said like it's amazing to see because Ciara herself is Iranian, she's not Palestinian. She said like thank you for the solidarity and support because the student in the audience was Palestinian, and she was saying it's so nice to see that other people care because sometimes it feels like that student said that she feels like she's in an echo chamber where she's not hearing other people caring or seeing it in action. So that's something I love this year, but there's so many fun things. Like Una Noche is so fun. That was you said like, no, that was really a perfect introduction to the year because it's like having an event like that, as successful as it was, set the stage for the year was great.
Yeah.
And like new SIEs. I just have to brag about that because Bella and Sean were new to our office in the fall. That event happened in October, yeah?
Yeah, it was week 4.
Week 4. So their first month as SIE, they put together this program that had like 75 people attend.
I
Yeah,
think so.
we had like
Crazy.
And lucky made people know how to party.
literally, and they were people.
Yeah.
I think people had no idea what the OML was.
Yeah.
They had no idea.
They're just like, I'm here to listen to music.
Their friends told them there was a party happening.
There's
Yeah.
dancing, there's music, they have
Yes.
so much culture.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I when it was our orientation, right?
Mhm.
And Bernal asked us, "Oh, do any of us have ideas for Latino Heritage Month?" And I was like, I raised my hand. It's like the first time I raised my hand. I was like, "What about a dance party?" Dance
Hell
party.
yeah.
And then Bella jumped on board from Zoom.
Yeah, it was on Zoom.
Yeah.
And then and what I loved about that is just like Latino, like our Latino campus community, like just got to have a space to just like to dance and have fun and have like we brought a bunch of snacks, a bunch of different drinks.
They made drinks.
Yeah.
My kitchen was like sticky from we made agua fresca with it was watermelon, wasn't it?
Yeah, whatever.
And
Yeah,
then
it was pink.
my kitchen was like sticky and like my fridge was a mess. It was, but we had, oh my gosh, it was so much fun.
And we bought a bunch of guaraná, and like
Mhm.
and then at the end of it, I was like, oh, everyone just take your like feel free to take whatever food, drinks, and snacks you want, and then they'll just.
I
go
still have
on.
some of the little jars.
Those are great.
I
Those
was
are really
so
good
convenient
jars.
for food storage. Oh my god.
And that also like taught me a lot about just like the position, because before like this is besides like working for my parents or something, like this is my first job besides working for my parents, and and then my first
You were an actor.
or
Yeah.
a child actor.
How dare you forget about
my third grade acting production.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
But,
Look up MasterCard.
I'll take like
2011? No.
I'm gonna find it.
Oh my god. No, we need to find
Sean's the
that.
one who rolls his eyes back.
to give context, I was in a MasterCard commercial. Does everyone know about this commercial?
And wait, weren't they all in the RRC watching it?
So it was a Christmas themed commercial, and
Yeah.
for we had like me and my brothers, we got like 3 guitars for Christmas, and we were just really gassed and like in faints, and as the artist that I am, I fall back, like I thought it'd be like just a great effect to roll my eyes back
Yeah.
as I fall back, and the director's like, yeah, don't do that. I'm like a third grader, like okay, fine. And then, but then the cut that they kept was me rolling my eyes back. So
No. Artistic vision.
I mean,
Yeah.
Sean literally created the theme song that we now use for the podcast. Like,
Yes.
that
Oh
is
yeah.
Sean. Like,
Yeah.
the talent.
I did start the guitar in 3rd grade too, which,
Oh.
Yeah.
but and yeah, I guess going back to Una Noche, just that first program, just because I just learned like just so much from this position, like from like pursuing like just taking a big project and like cutting it up into little pieces, and multitasking, reaching out to other areas on campus. I learned so much about our campus that I had no idea about, because from being like online for basically 2 years, and then so this is like the first full in-person year. I just learned so much of like not only about SCU, but also just about how to be like a better professional, and like and I would not have been able to like have this learning without the OML. Then I was also able to lean into like my passions, like from using my like background in guitar to help create a jingle for this podcast, as well as lean into my passion for music and the jazz history is Black history. Like lean into my passion for mental health. For our upcoming mental health awareness month programs, like our walk for suicide prevention. Then we have a wellness Wednesday tabling tomorrow. But yeah, I just like, it's not only have I been able, like I just really appreciate the opportunity to like just lean into what I'm passionate about, and like help create the change I want to see on campus, and as well as like I think honestly my favorite part about being in SIE is this is like the first time I've been surrounded by so many like passionate, intelligent, like talented, like driven people. Like so like it just makes you like ups the bar, you know. Like,
Sean, you're making me cry.
I mean, like you know, I have like you know a lot of friends that are close to me, but they're like I'm never like, you know, I'm never in a room surrounded by people who want to create like a positive change.
But you're about to call your friends dumb.
The spaces I'm in are never this driven. Like, they don't like there's so much care. Like,
just a high concentration of like people passionate
a drive for social justice and education, and just want to make a difference.
Yeah, beautifully said.
Absolutely.
Kira, we're waiting.
Oh,
Yeah,
what is your favorite stuff? I had a lot of fun things that I did throughout my year. A lot of them being fun, a lot of them just being educational. I think one of the favorite things that I did get to host was having a Women X panel for Women's History Month. It was really great, even though it like took a lot out of me. I truly liked the work that I produced in the end. It was a really great event. I was so glad we were able to get a variety of people on the panel and have just a lot of people come in and sit in and just hear the story that staff and faculty have to share. And even after the event, I still occasionally heard people talking about it, which was really like heartwarming to like hear. And something else I'm pretty proud of is just getting like these Trans Day of Remembrance bracelets
Yeah.
made. Because I occasionally see people wearing them, and it just like makes me happy that people are like in support of this day, because it's like very important. I also really enjoyed, I have a lot of fun things, but I really enjoyed the picnic I had Sunday. It has been a long thing in the making that I've been like trying to get together with the alumni program, and we were finally able to like physically have the event Sunday, and a lot of people came, a lot of people ate the food, they played the games. It felt like we were like having an early summer, and people were just enjoying being together and just like talking and hanging out, even though it was very hot outside. But it lasted a longer time than I expected, which was really great. I'm glad so many people were able to came through on a Sunday nonetheless.
Quick intermission. Nicole is available.
Let's get
Do we
Nicole
want to
on.
add her on the call?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Oh my god.
Let's
Oh.
Hello everyone, how are you doing?
It's our farewell podcast.
Yeah, it's the last one
Yes.
we're doing, and we're just talking about like what the events that we really loved, the things that were really shitty that happened on campus, and like the transition of that. So if you have
Okay.
anything to input, please do.
Start by telling us your favorite programs.
Yeah.
Well, I love Gays in the Garden, obviously.
Yes.
That's my baby. I really like the Hot Ones event. Some good chicken, I'm not gonna lie.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, Una Noche was wonderful, splendid. So those are probably my favorite. Okay, let's see, what was hard? Hours when you don't have anything to do. Just like, oh, what am I gonna do today? Maybe this, and just coming up with like fake shit to do. It's just, sometimes there's not much on the agenda, you know?
Yeah.
What did you guys say?
When midterms happen.
Yes.
Sometimes
What
I'll
did
have
y'all
like
say?
We haven't actually even gotten there yet.
No, we haven't talked about like any of this.
We're like,
stuff.
We're getting there.
we wanted to wait for you.
Okay.
you know what? What were you saying, Tom?
Yeah.
I said sometimes during my desk hours when I have nothing to do, like, and I just can't look at my computer anymore, I'll have to be like, oh, I'll just make some buns right now, or like I'll just find things for me to do, like just, hey, Polly, do you need help carrying anything, or like just things like that. Like earlier today, I grabbed a stack of newspapers, like because we're doing with Chris as our new director, we're passing around these new newspapers around campus, and I was just like going around to the tables around beds and just like dishing them out. But anyone wants, I guess, continue with tough things about the job?
Tough things.
I have a tough thing. I've been talking with folks a lot recently about how there appears to be a collective sense of burnout with regard to social justice and DEI work. Not a lot of people want to do it or can do it anymore. And I was reflecting about it with Chris in our one-on-one yesterday, but my first year, week one, I joined TLC and Equay, and the MCC was literally alive. Like alive is the only way I can describe it. Like there were always people in there were always programs being held in there, and there was so much passion for the work. And the ethnic studies class the graduating class that year was small, but like tiny but mighty situation, and people really wanted to do the work. And then there was kind of a lull because of COVID, and then after the deaths of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, like things picked back up for a minute, and then slowed back down because we were still in COVID for like another year. Of course, we're still in COVID, but not in lockdown. And like now, things seem to have stabilized, but they're not like where they used to be. And I think we're seeing this a lot with hiring, like OML Wellness Center, other like MCC, TLC organizations that we've all been a part of. Like they're having a lot of difficulty hiring right now. Because people like I said, they either don't want to or they can't because of bandwidth do this work, which is hard for all of us. None of us are here are returning to OML RRC in the fall. A lot of us are graduating or studying abroad, but it leaves me feeling a little bit pessimistic, if I'm being honest, about like what's gonna happen. But I was sharing with Brunel the other day, like I'm really trying to work on that. Because there's reason for optimism. We have a new director and there are exciting things happening, but it is hard to leave the university and to leave OML RRC knowing like people aren't as passionate as they don't appear to be as passionate as they used to be. There are definitely still people who are passionate and are ready to put in the work, but it's like it is a lot of work and I think people are tired. I'm tired. I think like it's not like I'm not exempt from it. I'm tired too. So yeah, I don't know. I think that's been on my mind a lot.
I think the pandemic definitely had a lot to do with that.
Yeah.
Because the pandemic just took a number on everyone. Everyone is tired. Everyone got taxed by it. I mean, we're online for college. I mean, well, y'all were online for like a year and a half, and then like even though me and Kira weren't in college, we were online in high school, and then when we came to college, we had all this stuff at the beginning of 2021 with suicides and sexual assaults. We had to go back online briefly. That was a mess, and of course, this year I feel like it's just been collective fatigue because everyone's just tired with the pandemic. Everyone is just everyone's just going through it. And even we had the death of George Floyd and all the protests in 2020. We had a lot of stuff, related to DEI work, and a lot of just things happening in this country. And then of course in the queer realm, we've had all the recent transphobic legislations, Don't Say Gay bills. We had Roe v. Wade being overturned. All these things happened just last year, even though it's like ages ago. Everyone I feel like is tired, and also with like people not being as enthusiastic or like MCC and just like not being as alive. I also really think COVID really did a number on all the campus communities. Like I feel like with COVID being online for so long, it seems like all the clubs, MCC, OML RC is just the communities were like just destroyed over COVID and it's rebuilt from like ground up, and it's going to take some time I feel to get to like pre-COVID levels of engagement overall. Even though like last year people were enthusiastic, I feel like this year people haven't been as enthusiastic to get like engaged in all of that, and we're still trying to get numbers up from pre-COVID.
I think the pandemic also exacerbated racial, gender, sexual inequalities in the United States. Like Black and brown communities, BIPOC communities were the hardest hit by the pandemic, and then you had a lot of anti-Asian hate and a lot of really awful things that happened throughout the pandemic that a few of them were related directly to the pandemic, a few of them were indirectly related to the pandemic, but all of it I think led people to realize like, damn, there's the little things that we were doing that we were excited about 4 years ago, like they can't fix what's fundamentally wrong with the United States. And so it's like, why even try? Which is hard. I'm moving to Canada. I hope.
Have you decided?
I want to. Not only because like the United States is but I was talking with a coworker about it this morning. I really, really admire and respect the people who can stay and like continue to fight the good fight day in and day out. That, like I said, just a lot of respect for people like that. But I feel like there's also, I don't know, I think we should also respect people that are like, damn, I can't. Like, there should be no shame associated with being like, I have to protect. Mahek, who's not here right now, says it all the time and lives by the phrase, I have to protect my peace. And that's like something I've really taken to heart this year. You can still do the work and protect your peace. And whether that looks like moving to Canada or not, that's what it is.
I think that's what I would say is like one of the hardest parts is that the SIE team and the OML and the RRC as just offices are some of the only people on Santa Clara's campus that continually, as Grace would like said, fight the good fight. And it's hard because in these roles, so many of us, if not all of us, come to these roles because we share identities, we share experiences, And I've said this the entire year, but like your work doesn't end when you leave the desk because you're never gonna stop being who you are. You're like, it's your sexuality, it's your race, it's your ethnicity, and you never stop being that. And in a job like this, that's all about, promoting and striving for justice on our campus. You can't just like leave this work behind, like you might if you work like in the mailroom or as a desk assistant or something. And that's been a really tricky line to toe.
And then one other thing, and then I have to go to dinner with my family. But I remember when I was working there, like in the fall, I think it was the end of fall, I was like policing every single thing I thought I said in terms of like social justice. Like, is this inclusive enough language? And like graceful. I remember I said something at a vigil and I assumed someone's pronouns, and Grace was like, no, and I was like, oh fuck. And then I was doing that with everything, and I like could not escape it, and it was like ruining my life. So that
I'm so sorry.
No. I was already doing it because like the ethnic studies classes and then all the other stuff, and then like being in the RRC and now like dedicating myself to that. And then in the winter quarter, I was taking disability classes, and it was just like a lot. And I was like I was like doing everything at once, and I was like, I need to pick something. Like I can't do this all. And so having to pick is really difficult. But again, you have to protect your peace. And another thing with working in the RRC, I know I've talked about this with the RRC folks, is like, especially with the queer stuff that's happening in the country right now, being on the gay agenda every week and like people knowing that you are queer on campus is very scary. And like literally every week with your face, and whether or not they don't know how you identify, and so they could assume the worst. And so I developed a fear of being hate crimed because of this job, but I wouldn't have not done this job because of that. Like I loved working there, and it was a phenomenal experience, but it did come with other fears. So yeah.
Now that you mentioned that too, I remember like in fall quarter, the first like few weeks, every time I go down to RSC and go on my thing, I'm like, who's around? Who's judging me? Who's judging me? Who may say something? Who may hate crime and all that's going on? It's like we may be in California, maybe in a more accepting part of the country, but homophobes are everywhere. Homophobes are everywhere. Crazy people are everywhere. You never know. Like no, and it's like, and of course it's like I'm not gonna like not go to my shifts, and like I'm not gonna do this job. It's definitely like it's that thought of like what will people think? What will people do? What will people say? You just never know.
Yeah. Well, Nicole, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day, especially because you don't work here anymore. But we love you and we really miss you, and it was just so nice to see your face.
I'll be back next week for Rainbow Prom and Ethnic Studies. I'll see you there, Grace. So I'll be back next week, everyone.
Yes!
I'll see you soon.
Keep that in.
I will. Oh my gosh. But also, just to like go back to the work that we do, this is the sort of stuff that is important to the SIE role. We're all friends.
Yeah.
We're all
we can talk about this.
A little too close sometimes.
It's like we misread the profile earlier.
Wait, we're not gonna talk about that. We'll talk about
it later.
We're being so rude to the audience though, because at least 5 times we've been like, let me just later.
Well, the beautiful thing is I can edit all that out. Okay.
But I guess like that leads into just a big piece of like advice for the next year's SIEs is like be friends, like I think it's super important, like just visiting the OML, the RRC. I visit the RRC a lot.
Our honorary member.
Yeah,
Our token straight.
But it's like it's super helpful because like not only like you're not only working together, you're also like in it together, Like I've said this like a lot of times, like so many times this quarter. It's a part-time hours with full-time commitment, right?
Yeah.
So whether like, if you're working on a project and you ask another SIE, hey, could you like help me brainstorm for this, or hey, could you like help me with this flyer, or even when we're working on podcasts together, from just the normal communication from me sending like audio clips to like of the guitar to Anissa, or I'll record my podcast and Anissa is like generous enough to edit it, or or that collaboration, or or multiple people jumping on our project with Issa talking to Kira and I about the jazz histories, Black history, theatrical dialogue, and us like finding things we had in common, things that we're passionate about, and just leaning into those. And it's nice having, like, for example, I didn't for Una Noche in Latino America, I would not have done without Bella. But just being able to I remember me, like, since I work kind of slow, so I had all these ideas in my head, and I was like, okay, I think we need to contact these people and these people, but I was like I'm just a super slow like typer when it comes to emails and everything, so that would be like, cool, boom, 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 boom. And I mean, obviously, I got like faster over time with all that stuff, but like just being able to like lean into each other's strengths and see and the best part is just like being together with it, because when things are not so fun, or when things are fun, you're just all like enjoying it or not enjoying it together.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's incredibly important that we all do. We are, like I said before, we're all friends. We all are very comfortable with each other, talking about the funny things that happens, but also like just serious stuff. Like my mind immediately goes to the Colorado Springs vigil that we had.
Yeah.
And one, thank you so much to Nicole for setting that up and like being the real like star in running that. But just being able to create space where we know we're hurting, and we talked about this earlier with giving yourself and putting yourself into this job. It never leaves once you start it, because this job is who we are. It makes up all of our identities, and we're very passionate about it. So then creating those spaces where it's like anybody in this room, and also Mahek, Naomi, Issa, I forgot Issa wasn't here. I assumed Issa was here in presence, but she is. Yeah, but anybody, I feel comfortable going to anybody. Like I could particularly, I've been struggling mentally and also with a lot of family issues, and if it wasn't for any of you, I just set the blood up. I wouldn't have felt cared for enough to not only do the work that we do, but also to just make it through classes. Like, you guys, I know it sounds super cheesy and so dumb because I joke about how old I am all the time, but you have become my family when I desperately needed it. And so, like, thank you all for being a part of that, but also thank you just for the amount of work that you put in for yourself, because I see it. The community sees it. The people that come into our office to just sit, do homework, and joke around and have the most off-the-wall conversations ever. It wouldn't have been the same if it wasn't us as a group of individuals who all came together. So, yeah.
I think something similar to say to that is just that we have to be, and this goes for like the new people who will soon be taking our roles, just like be supportive of each other, because within this role, you're soon gonna learn how unsupportive this institution is for our organization.
So good.
And it just becomes really hard because we're passionate about the work we want to do here, but just understanding that just administration and like the institution doesn't really give recognition for how much work students are actually putting in to the stuff that's getting made. Like that visual that we had, I feel like there was not enough recognition for all of us who came together and like held that space. Like I could go on a long rant. I'm just gonna cut it there.
No, honestly, now we're on the topic of how unsupported we are. Like, let's get on to that, because honestly, that's like one of the biggest issue of working here and of OML RRC. Underfunded, understaffed. In all honesty, we're in OML right now. We're not even on campus. We're across the street from campus. Our RRC, Labor Resource Center, we are in a room that is honestly the size of a closet.
We have clothes. We have proof that it's a closet.
Yes, it's not a closet. There's seats up there. I said this to y'all before. that room is, I'd say, like half to 3/4 the size of my parents' closet. A, my parents have a big closet. B, the RC is small.
Your parents got a big
No,
closet.
we're just not given like a good space. We're not given any of the resources we need, and even the spaces. There's so many other spaces in South Benson, some of which were vacant last year. Why couldn't we moved into there? We've been down in that same area for Benson 11 ever since RC's found. Why can't we get a bigger space?
They've been there for 11 years.
Yeah, 11 years now. And also it's like another space too is like there are other orgs that moved in, but it's like why couldn't we gone back first? Because we were already there. And also just when we get to the funding part, I mean Joanna Burnell, Joanna when she was here, and now Burnell are always talking about how like funding is always like thin, must be mindful of budget, especially when we get to spring quarter this point in the year, the budget runs thin, we have to be mindful of that in all the programs. It's like why can we get more of that when we obviously need that so we can do programs? It's not like we're asking for much. We are not asking for a $300 million STEM building. We're not asking for a $50 million athletics gym. We're just asking that we have enough money to make it to the end of the school year to do our programs, which don't cost much, or to be able to log the hours that we're working. And also, like, if I want to go on to like how like there's not enough support for everyone, let's go to the pro staff. There's a reason why there's been high turnover. Like, there's a reason why the pro staff, like Joanna, are only staying here for about as long as students, around 4 to 5 years. It's because SCU just runs the pro staff into the ground and the students, but especially the pro staff who are honestly like individually doing the work of 2 people, and now with Joanna gone, Burnell's also doing the work of like 4 people. Like they're just doing way too much work. They are not given any like help or resources. And also even Pauline. Pauline is also, as our office manager, is not being given enough. We honestly need like a director and associate director for OML and RC, and each one also needs their own office managers. We need to double the pro staff if we're going to run effectively, if everyone's going to be able to run and just be able to like sustain this job long term. There's too much that they have to do, and it's just too much this office is being forced to do with the resources we have.
And to increasing pro staff means to increase space as well.
Yes.
As was stated earlier, RRC is in the basement of Benson. That right there tells me that this school doesn't want us to be visible to incoming students, especially that there is a career community here on campus. It feels very lackluster that we're in this office closet space that we are in now, and it's just like it shows that they don't care, unfortunately. And we, in my opinion, we should have a similar space like the MCC has, where they house multiple cultural groups and have that for just a bunch of, because we have various queer orgs here on campus, and like we don't have a collective space together where we can come together and just be our true selves. Like, sure, we have the RC, but like I said, it's like a closet, it's an office space. It doesn't feel like inviting or warm to be in. Like we try our best to like decorate it and make it look nice, but that doesn't take away that it.
I think something that we should talk about is just not only just support as to like getting more like turnout of students, and I guess more support from the institution to getting students to our programs, but also like staff and faculty members to our programs. From like I don't know, I feel like there should be a stronger effort from professors in their classes to other staff members in their various organizations and resources to getting students and themselves to it. I feel it seems like just like the same number of people, the same select people come to our programs, which is great. We have so much love for the people who show support our programs, but we can't always be preaching to the choir. We need additional support from just from the whole community to let our voices be heard.
Yeah, for sure.
We definitely need to be acknowledged as an office, and like we or whoever is taking over within the next year, we need to be acknowledged, supported, and not tokenized. Because the only way that we gain traction from anybody is when they need us to use us for something.
Exactly.
And it's very, very frustrating.
Yeah.
It's like over today when that person from admissions came down and was like, oh, watch the post and all that.
Of course they do.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna send them along, but it still is a lot to take out of my own psyche to be like, well, you didn't care enough to come take the pictures, you weren't there. Like it just is using our office to prove that they're working towards diversity and they're working
They're
towards.
lying.
No, it's bullshit. It's all a lie. It is not nearly where it needs to be, and I don't know exactly what needs to happen, but that is a very, very strong reality for this job and on this campus that we should be addressing, whether we are scared of getting in trouble or not. I honestly don't care. I'm leaving.
Mhm.
But but just like knowing that a part of being in this position, and which we've tried to communicate before, but I don't think is actually listened to, because we've talked about our jobs don't end when we leave the office. We work 24/7, and I think the way it was taken when we said that was, are you not getting paid for the work you do? Which we aren't. Like, we should be making over minimum wage. It is not the same office job as
Oh my gosh.
anything else on campus.
No.
For how taxing it is to put yourself, and I do that willingly. I purposely use my SIE role to put more of myself in the world, and put more of myself in the things that I do. But that's a big ask for people, and then it sucks even more when you're like, oh, can I use your face for this? Can I use this? Can we just say, can we direct you in here? Because there's no follow through action. It's not support, it's tokenization.
So to close this final podcast episode, we're all going to share one interaction with a student, faculty, or staff member we had this year that cemented our love of the work that we do. With that, I can start. We were talking earlier about Club Q and the vigil that we held, and the interaction I want to highlight without like naming names or anything. A student emailed our office a few months ago sharing that they knew people who would go to Club Q. They went to Club Q themselves as an ally to support their friends on nights out, and they were very appreciative of the work that we do and offered to support us in any way that they could. And I was sitting at the desk during my shift one day and emailed that student back thanking them for their allyship, and that interaction led me to reflect on allyship and language, and how allyship, to me at least, and to all of us in this room, is an active process, not passive. It's not posting on social media, but it's actively showing up for communities that you care about. And I think that's the student's email is a beautiful example of like, we are reaching people even if it doesn't feel like we are. Like, we talk with the Club Q vigil, we talk a lot about, Kiara, you were saying recognition, like that vigil didn't receive the recognition we wanted it to receive by the university. And as difficult as that is, we reached one person, and even if we reached that one person, I would do it over again, you know. That's the interaction.
Something I want to highlight, I guess the first thing that came to mind when you asked that question wasn't experienced during the SIE position, but it was before. It was around the time I got offered the position, and it was about a year ago. I was working on this. Like, the reason why I ended up here was through the Mountaintop campaign, which is just me wanting to create community through action rather than words. So what I was doing was just had a bunch of buttons with icebreaker questions on them, and put them in Benson, and when I had my bowl of, like, for the first time, I put my bowl of buttons like in the front desk of Benson, and I went up to the person at the desk and I said, "Hi, I'm collaborating with the OML on this event, or on this program." Explained it to them. Is it cool if I leave this bowling down here? And they said yes, of course. And as I turn to walk away, immediately I hear them scurry around the table, and I hear them grab a few buttons, and they turn to their coworkers and say, "Do any of you want a button?" And just the immediate feedback from just right away, it just made my whole year. Like, it was just, and that was like the reason, like, why I just love that so much. Just the immediate feedback of people just being on board, and me connecting with, my idea connects with someone that's like, it connects with someone in the campus community, and that immediate feedback it kind of just encapsulates why I really love currently, and and we'll miss being an SIE.
I can go next. I think what I like the most is that because I run the gay agenda and it's like a weekly thing, I do occasionally get people who talk to me like, "Hey, you're the one who's running the agenda because my name is on it." So I do get like mostly friends, but then a couple people just through class just say, "Hey, I read the agenda," and it's really nice and reassuring to know that people are actually like taking the time out of the day to go through the agenda. But I think someone that kind of stuck out the most during my time in this role was Elise from campus ministry. Just knowing that there is like faculty on campus that are very much in support of like LGBTQ plus issues, especially like in very niche areas. So like that community and like spirituality like coming together. Like I'm really thankful that she's very into the work she's doing and that hoping I can like work, even though I'm not gonna return to this role next year, I'm hoping I can still like continue to work with her more because she's just like a really great person to get to know and she's very passionate about the work she does and I just really appreciate her. And she also was the one who helped make the bracelets for Trans Day of her own. So
Yeah, shout out to Elise.
yeah.
I go then. For me, honestly, I have two. I have like one against working with students and one with staff that both tie for me. First was back in fall when I did the difficult dialogue, getting to work with like a queer faculty member. And like I got to work with him on the DD stuff for the monkeypox one, and also like he was in what was it? I thought we're in public county public health stuff. But he was in like Santa Clara County Public Health and of course faculty here at SCU. It was nice to work with not only an expert, but someone who was in the queer community, someone who was also living through that. It was nice to see that there are faculty here that do want to work with us, and that there are also faculty at SCU that identify as queer. It's like it's not just the students that are queer; it's also the faculty, it's also staff, it's also anyone else at this university, not just students that are queer, not just young people of all ages, people in different stages of their life. And that was for me definitely a really nice thing for me, or like a favorite like thing when it comes to working with like faculty. And for me what ties with this also working with students is when I did the Blair Amani event with Queer and Qualified, because that one again was like Queer and Qualified, we're a student group, we do not have the same level of resources as RC does, obviously. So like when we founded the honorarium for having Blair come was thousands, we're like, there's no way we can afford this, but RC is like, oh, we can cover the honorarium, we can do this. And it's like that's great because without RC, we wouldn't be able to have Blair come and do an event with us. And like it wasn't just Queer and Qualified people who came. We had other people who had never come to a Queer and Qualified event, like just come out and coming to the event. And in total, I think you had like 50 to 60 people come, both in person and on Zoom, many of which they didn't know about Queer and Qualified. And so this is like the first time hearing about the club, and it's like I got like it's like in this position I got to help a club that I was involved in, another queer club, do something they wouldn't be able to do otherwise, and also managed to make it the biggest event that Queer and Qualified had ever had. So those are probably like my two highlights, just working with other people in this role.
Yeah.
That was great. I was there on Zoom and
Yes.
I could still feel the energy in the room. Blair is such a warm person and I love that. Shout out to y'all for organizing it.
Yes, it was great that was able to happen. It took quite a while, but it's like it happened and we're like, oh my god.
Okay, mine. This is gonna sound very strange, but believe it or not, one of my favorite memories of student interactions was through Embrace. Now hear me out. This is not me condoning Embrace. I am not an Embrace fan. However, it must have been, I think it was a Saturday session. It was a Saturday morning session. And one of the things I try to do in Embrace is to like be just like authentically me. And I know Sean was next to me in a lot of the Embrace sessions, and he would at the end of every time he'd be like, oh my god, you're impossible to be next to. Just because like I'm just like yelling, I'm like telling jokes.
It's because everyone was having so much fun, and I'm like, yeah, thank you.
That's awesome.
Next I hear about saying, now let me tell you a story. And I'm there saying,
Oh my god.
Step in.
I was just trying to like make it interactive.
But it has a lot of fun energy.
Thank you. with that being said, this one particular day, and we had the icebreaker activity at the beginning, and I was with my partner, and we were just sharing things about ourselves. And one thing that I'm very hesitant to share, but I love when I can get to share, is my third culture and international identity. And this girl was telling me about where she's traveled, and then we started talking, trying to find things in common, like we do in that first icebreaker. And she was like trying to tell me all these things, and then she was like, "Oh, you've been to a lot of places." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I grew up internationally." Anyway, I said something about Ethiopia, and because that was one of my treasured homes. And a girl in my group, like, completely perked up. She was like, "Ethiopia? Like, why are you talking about Ethiopia?" And she was like, "You know Ethiopia?" And anyway, so it turns out she was Ethiopian. She had never met a white person who knew about Ethiopia the way I
You're
did.
from Africa,
Why are you white?
Oh my god.
And it was the best thing ever because she and I connected in my group.
Yeah.
And then at the end of our session, it's like she had like a secret siren. She calls one name and like 4 girls come up and they're like, you know Ethiopia? Like, you know everything. And then we start like speaking in Amharic, and then they're like shocked. They've never seen a white person speak Amharic before. And they were like, "Oh my god, I'm from around here. Like, you have to come to my parents' house. You have to do all this. Like, come eat injera with us, all this stuff." And then we were just surrounded for like, they stayed late. They stayed like maybe 45 minutes late. They stopped by the RRC a bunch of times. And to this day, like, if I see any of them, they will like come embrace me. We wave. It's like super enthusiastic. And that was like, someone got something out of Embrace.
Yeah.
Including myself. But I just, it was so incredible. And for the first time, I was like, oh my god, like, there's someone on this campus that I can talk to about that part of my life.
Yeah.
And so, like, not only, I'm sure it was like shocking for them to like see me and like interact with me. I'm older than them. I'm not Ethiopian by blood, obviously, but they just were like shocked there were people like that. And I just know I was shocked to find people who wanted to talk about Ethiopia. And then it was just like this crazy, and like I felt so happy. Like, to this day, even just thinking about that, I'm like, that was good. Like, that was a great moment. And I think it's also just a testament to like being vulnerable. It's so hard, but like it pays off so much if it's with the right people. I guess, like, you know what I mean?
It's worth it, even for like all the bad experiences that happen as a result of being vulnerable. Like that one, like having just one thing like that that lasts all year, and like now that you have those relationships, like it's so special.
Yeah, that's my favorite. Bring us home, Anissa.
Yes. This is perfect. Did you plan this to go last?
I kind of did.
That's why she stayed silent.
Oh my god.
Close the show.
Well, I have to end it. I mean, I've been working on this podcast for 2 years. This is my baby. So there's been a lot of moments in the 2 years that I've worked here where I have gotten to receive anonymous feedback, in-person feedback, emails for a lot of the stuff that I did. The first one was probably with what was it for? It was for Queer Craft Corner when I started it last year in spring. Somebody had emailed and said, "I was at the event, I didn't really speak, but I just want you to know that I finally found a safe space." And I'm gonna cry again. But just like knowing that the things that I did were things that made a difference. I can't change the world. Sorry, there's a Pearson Bell song that's stuck in my head right now. And the line that I also like just have been listening to a lot is I swear to God I'm gonna change the world and someday we'll say this is paradise. But anyway, just like knowing that I can't change the world, but I changed somebody's world in that day. So I get the same thing when like people write in on the podcast when they're requesting episodes. Sometimes it's just comments that say like, "Hey, thank you for talking about this." Like biphobia and fat phobia. Fat phobia was my favorite episode because it was something that it was it meant so much to me. And there was also like some negativity that I got with it. There was a YouTube comment that was like, why don't you just exercise? Like some prick, but whatever. But like it so many other people that was like, that's the first time I actually felt comfortable. And it was the episode that also made me start to consider my gender identity. Like okay, so also within that, just the people that I've met, like talking with the podcast, with different stuff, bringing guests in, have made me reflect on myself and also reflect on the events that I do and the type of stuff that I want to do. So even stuff like Thrift Tea that I didn't start until this quarter. So many people show up to that event and they're like, one, they're constantly trying to give us money. They're like, is there a way to Venmo you? Is there a way to pay? They're like, because this event means something to me. This is the first time that I can get gender affirming clothing. And I don't get to go home with it, but I get to have it here. And so like all of these voices, whether they were physically voiced to me, they were written to me, I know that I've made a difference in somebody's life. And I couldn't have done that without doing this role. It's difficult, it's hard, it's so much taxing stuff. But it changed me. And I'm very thankful to have had my time here. I'm thankful for getting to do the podcast. It's something that I always wanted to do, but I was a little too fearful to do. And I'm grateful for the work that I've done and the work of everyone here. I'm thankful for all. Oh God, that was beautiful. That was perfect. We love you so much. I love you all so much. Like
Next year.
With all of that said and all of that sentiment shared, thank you all for listening. Thank you for being a part of this journey with us. Thank you for coming to our events. Thank you for listening. Thank you for liking our posts. And I guess for the last time, like I said, this is my baby. This has been Word on the Street, an OML RRC podcast. Thanks for listening.